Welcome back. With me today is Sally Pederson, and today we're going to talk about living a life on your terms. Living where you want to live, with who you want to live, paying whatever taxes you want to pay, and not limited to any government, any country, any laws, any nothing. When I started online, that was the most freedom I got, being able to do things in any country with any clients without limitations of geography and all of that. Otherwise, I'd be stuck here in Uganda, I don't know, selling tomatoes. And so I like Sally's work because how do you pay less tax? How do you open your business in the countries that favor you? How do you pay as less taxes as you can? How do you live a life free of stress? Like, how do you sit there and not think that I don't know what the regulation is in your country is coming for you, but like, how do you get that freedom of location, of the freedom to not worry about making the wrong thing, the visas, where do I stay, the citizenships, like, how do you be in a place where you don't worry about that? By handing over that stuff to the people who've learned that stuff and they live and breathe it, like Sally. So let's dive in. Sally, welcome to the show. I'm excited.
Thank you very much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
What do we get wrong about taxes, about building businesses online and not being in trouble with not paying tax or paying too much? Like, what do we get wrong in filing or paying taxes, or what is it that we get wrong?
Most people think that you have to have your corporation in the country that you live in, and that's just incorrect.
And what about me, who has a corporation in the UK and I had no idea? Like, I had no idea, no knowledge. I just like, okay, company formations, they'll give me a company in the UK, I'll go for it. Like, I had no idea. What trouble do I land in when I have no idea when I open the company?
Well, you have to do some research and you have to figure out what you are doing for your work and which country is best for you with the lowest taxes.
I just wanted Stripe, and Stripe wanted a company and it couldn't pay Uganda. And I said, okay, what countries do you take? And they gave me, and I was like, okay, UK. And so I just opened. That was all I had. But anyway, who is the person who's going to be most beneficial in this interview? Is it the person who's starting? Is it the person who has $1 million in the bank? Is it the person who has 10? Like, who are we speaking to today? Who's going to benefit?
All entrepreneurs can benefit. If you own a business, you will benefit because we all have to pay taxes unless you are registered in a no tax country. So if you're starting out, you want to think about where you want to start and register initially in that. And if you've already started, then you want to think about where you can move that corporation to. And it's not a physical move. It's literally just a paperwork move. So you're just opening and registering as opposed to the country where you already have. You would just do the same type of process, but in another country, so you pay less taxes.
Sally, what do you really do for people?
Pardon me?
What do you really do for people? Exactly. Like, how can you put this in a wrap and go, here is what I do, here's the depth of it, here's how you can benefit, so we can dive in.
So what we help people do is we call it global diversification. And a lot of people have heard, don't keep all your eggs in one basket. Most people think of that as don't invest all your money in real estate or all in stock or all in one thing. The way that we see it is don't keep everything that you have in one country. So ideally, you have your corporation in a low tax or no tax country. You have your assets, whether it's again in another corporation, in trust accounts or things to protect those assets in another country. You have bank accounts in other countries. And then you have citizenships and residencies in a variety of countries. And then you live as a tax resident, again, in a different country. So everything that you have is spread out around the world in different countries. So if things go bad in one country, it's not going to affect everything that you have. And if somebody's going to sue you for some reason, they have to go and sue you from either if it's personally in the country that you live in, or if it's for your corporation with the laws, the corporation in the country that it's registered in. And so that makes it a lot harder. And different countries have different protection laws. And so you want to look at that as to what's going to protect you the best, what's going to make it the hardest for people to get your money or your assets because they are in a different country. You still have complete control over everything that you own. It's just set up to protect yourself from frivolous lawsuits or things that maybe your local government might try to do. As an example, when there was a trucker protest during the pandemic in Canada, and the Canadian government threatened to not give passports, to not renew passports. They also froze people's bank accounts for protesting and froze bank accounts for people who were supporting the protesters. And so it
Hmm.
just helps to protect you from others and the government.
I see what you mean, because when the money is there, when you're wealthy, people are always trying to poke holes to see how to take the money. And so that makes it really hard for people to bankrupt you. Does it protect people who are getting divorced? Can you get divorced and not lose all your money? I don't know how that works, but does it protect people who are getting divorced, or is it's no one of those that people can use to go, I have less funds than you know, and so I'm not going to lose them. How does
I
that
mean,
help people
it's not a
who
good thing to do, but yes, there have been people that absolutely
Hmm.
have done it. They have things in trust accounts. If you have property and you put it in a trust for your children, that
Hmm.
can never be taken because it's in a trust. And there's
Hmm.
different types of trust. So you have to think of how you set it up in the type of trust that you set it up in. But that way, it cannot be taken in trust. And in certain trusts too, whether you leave stuff, you have a home, you leave it to your children, they cannot use that as credit, right? Like they can't take loans against it. They can't. So again, it can be set up so it can never be sold, never be lost. And that's when people then are designing generational wealth. So
Hmm.
then, it's one thing that it just can go from generation to generation to generation if it's set up properly in the right type of trust. And they can still benefit from it, whether that's property is sold, not sold, but rented or what may be done with it. They can still get a monthly income from the items that are in the trust without the potential of losing it or having creditors take it, or even if they declare bankruptcy, the trust cannot be touched.
I love it because I'm thinking about someone who's trying to plan for their family and they want that diversity, or they want that type of bulletproof kind of thing, having different assets in different countries and the different laws for different circumstances so that no one can figure you out. I like silent wealth. So I think that's really a very good way to have silent wealth by having decent wealth in different countries that no one knows about. I love the idea. How did you get here though? Like, when did you start figuring out all this stuff and becoming this tax geek that you are?
It kind of happened by accident in a way. So many years ago, almost 2 decades ago, it's been a long time. I had purchased property in Costa Rica, and it was going to be my retirement home. So in the meantime, I was renting it out and claiming it on my taxes. And one year, I got a letter in the mail saying I'm being audited. And I thought, okay, no problem. I know the governments do random audits all the time. And my name got picked. However, they pick, I don't know. And so I was like, okay, here's all the information. I did everything that I'm allowed to do. I claimed all the income from my business, from the corporation that the property was in. I also claimed all the expenses that my property management company gave me. So for the cleaning in the pool and maintenance and all of that stuff. And the government came back, or the auditor came back and said, well, we're going to accept all the income that you listed, but we're not going to accept any of the deductions. And those deductions were allowed. Like, I can't have rental income if my property is maintained and the pool cleaned and everything like that. And so anyway, they said, so we've redone your taxes. And so now you owe us X amount of money. And because it was from 3 years prior, you also owe us interest on top of that for the last 3 years. And I couldn't believe it. I thought, I didn't do anything wrong. Like, I'm allowed these deductions. And I did claim my income. And so I thought, this is ridiculous. And I remembered, there's lots of people that we hear about, very rich people that pay very little taxes in a percentage. And so I thought, okay, if that's the way the government's going to be, I'm going to learn about how this works and I'm going to figure it out because this government is not going to get any more of my money. And that's
Mm.
what kind of started it. And then years later,
Mm.
I ended up moving down to Costa Rica. And then that's what kind of got me into the knowledge of the other parts of residencies and more citizenships and international corporations and everything like that. So it was kind of what the government did to me that made me think this is not fair and people need to know. So I'm going to learn. Initially, it was for me. I'm going to learn about it
Mm.
for myself. And then through the pandemic, with everything that various governments were doing, that's when I really started Global Citizen Life and said people need to know that there's options out there because these governments are just terrible and they're only looking out for themselves. And so we need to kind of look out for ourselves and learn some of the rules and do it legally. Like this is all legally. Like I don't want to be looking over my shoulder and being worried and concerned about doing something wrong and getting into trouble. And just the way that I see it is it's learning and playing by their rules, the ones that they don't
Mm.
tell us,
Mm.
but they're there.
Wow. Wow. I like what you're saying, really. If I was in a place where I have whatever money in the bank, maybe I'm an online influencer and I have been making whatever, and my accounts are not up to date, or I had ignorance. Like I personally have ignorance about tax. I don't know how many other people have ignorance about tax and if they're paying the right tax and if they're not. But I wanted to ask if somebody was in a place where they weren't clear if they were clean or they were paying too much. I don't even know if they were paying too much, and they're probably having a company like I do in the UK for no reason at all, other than it was the only option for Stripe to give me an account. Like if people are in those circumstances where they're just running by the default, walk me through that process of how we need to start looking at this. What are the buckets? Where should we look? How should we begin thinking to be able to clean our books and not pay too much?
Well, the first thing that you want to look at is
Mm.
what country you're incorporated in, because every country has different tax rates. Some are zero, some are 5%, 9%, 12%, 20%, 30%. And so that's the big thing first is what is that percentage of income from the company that you're paying in taxes? The next thing that you want to look at is how are you making your money? Because that's a big thing. And a quick story for that. So I had a gentleman come to me from the United States and say, I'm going to move my company to Dubai because Dubai, they have 0% tax. And that is changing. Now it's 9%. But at the time it was zero. And he said, so I'm gonna move my company to Dubai. I'm not paying any more taxes. And in theory, people think, yeah, I can just do that. But then I said, well, wait a minute. How are you making your money? He said, well, I'm similar like an influencer. I make my money off of YouTube. And I
Mm.
said, okay, but if you're making money off of platforms like YouTube, Amazon, things like that, you have to fill out a document saying, is it a personal thing? Is it a corporation? Where is that? And the thing about that is the United States does not have a tax treaty with Dubai. So if he was to move
Mm.
his company to Dubai and have YouTube pay him in Dubai, because there's no tax treaty, Amazon YouTube, I'm sorry, YouTube, Amazon would do the same thing, would automatically withhold 30% because there's no
Wow.
tax treacy. And so then he would
Mm.
be paying 30%, which is more than what he was paying. So we do
Mm.
have to look sometimes at how you make your money. Now, if he was an online coach and people were paying him directly, Dubai could have been a good option
Mm.
because that's where the corporation was. So we have to kind of look at where that income comes from. And then the next thing that we also have to look at, as you said earlier, is how are you accepting it? Because Stripe, which is very popular, or PayPal, which is also very popular, is not available in every single country. So we have to look at then, if you're using Stripe, what countries is it available in for that banking purpose? Or what other payment platform options are available in that country? And so it's not just black and white, or, oh, I'm just going to move my corporation here. For some people they can, but we need to also look a little bit at a bigger picture and to see how things work to make sure you're making the right choice, because you don't want to be having, your payments going somewhere where you can't access your money. And we don't want to end up paying taxes because there's a large withholding tax that we're not going to be able to get that back because there is no tax treaty. So there is a number of things that we do need to look at, but those for your corporation, those definitely are the most important. So what's the tax rate? How are we getting that income, and how are we getting paid for a payment platform? And that's what I would start with.
What about let me move, or let me not move, or let me go to Costa Rica, or give me that bit as well, because some of the listener may be a nomad, the digital nomad, and they kind of want to see if they had the ability to move or wanted to move, educate them in that line. Because I personally don't know, should I move, should I not move, where do I move to? Like, I just know I like Spain, but I have no idea what the tax is. I have no idea what the implication is. I feel like I'm blindsided in the tax bit, and I'm just being led by what I want. But then what I want may cost me if I'm not thinking about the tax. So now that you're here, educate us more of if I had to move versus if I had to open a company here and there, and what are the tax-free places versus give me a little bit meat into that tax, because some of us are ignorant and don't care to read that stuff. And are not about to care
Well, it's not very exciting
until we are slapped in the head. So help us here.
So we also need to think about what we're talking about are two different taxes. So what I was talking about earlier is your corporate tax, where you have your company set up. And I'll loosely say, like, obviously not anywhere in the world, but we have a lot of options. There's a number of countries to reduce our corporate taxes. Now, where we live, we also have to then be filing personal taxes, where a lot of people think kind of incorrectly is, oh, well, I'm a digital nomad. I move around every so many months, so I don't have to pay taxes anywhere. That's not true. You are required. It's like a global kind of consensus that no matter where you live, you have to pay taxes. So for somebody who moves around, well, where do you live? If you're just like every 3 or 4 months or something, you're moving to different places, or even less than that, then it would kind of come back to where your citizenship is. And you would have to file and pay taxes where your citizenship is. You need to reduce your personal taxes, you need to be a legal tax resident of that country. And the reason why I say legal tax resident is because you can have several residencies and not be a tax resident there. So we need to look at then where you're a tax resident. And that's where you either spend most of your time, maybe you have a property there, you're living there, you've got bank accounts there. Like there's different countries have different things to say whether you're there, but you legally are living there. You've got that residency, permanent citizenship, those types of things. And then that's where you file your taxes. And again, at a personal level, different countries have different amounts. But I would never recommend to somebody just to move somewhere for tax purposes. I mean, you have to be living there. You need to get that visa to live there, or that citizenship. You have to have feet on the ground for a certain amount of time. So you need to enjoy it. Because if you're saving money on taxes and you're hating the country you live in, it's not worth it. Like the money's obviously not going to make you happy. And so you have to think about, where would you like to live? What is the lifestyle you want? Do you like hot weather, cooler weather? Do you want to be by the water? Do you not care about the water and you prefer mountain? Do you want to be city? Do you want to be rural? Do you like hiking? Do you like cooking? Do you like lots of people? Do you like to be left alone more? Like those are the things that you have to know you and why are you moving? Because some people say, "Oh, I'm just not happy. I want to move." Well, if you're not happy with you follows you everywhere you go. And so you need to figure that out. And so we look at that a little bit differently because the corporation,
Mm.
we don't have to really be there. And I say that loosely because with some countries, you may have to have a residency permit and spend a week, a year in that country to have keep the residency to keep your corporation there, or you have to go a few days. So there's times where you have to do maybe visits. Some you don't even have to do that, but we look at that. But where your personal tax residency is, needs to be a place that you're going to enjoy and you like, and you're going to be happy being there. You always leave and go on vacations and you can be gone a fair amount, but you have to be there a certain amount of time. And a lot of people think that they have to be somewhere 183 days out of the year is that point that makes you a tax resident. And in some cases, yes, but there is more to it. It's an easy thing to think about, but it's not just that black and white of, oh, well, I was only here 180 days. I don't have to pay taxes.
Mm.
It's not quite that simple.
So what I'm picking is this: you have personal tax, you have corporate tax. Do you advise on both, or are you more about the organization where it is, the company where it is, and let's get the taxes? Or do you actually help people even with the personal tax of knowing if I can live in many countries, where should I file versus do you do both? Do you do one? How does it work?
Yeah, we help with both as a kind of like a holistic approach of, okay, this is, we go through and people answer a whole bunch of questions, and then I give generally three options. Three options of, what, these three places are really great for you to have your corporation. And with your corporation, you have bank accounts. Here are options for bank accounts for you. And then also here's some options for you to have citizenship potentially. Here's some options to have additional residencies. And then here's three options of you for great places that would probably suit where you want to live as a tax resident. And they all kind of connect a little bit. And so we put together that kind of whole package for people, depending upon their individual needs and wants, because everybody's different. What everybody wants is different. And so unlike some places, and understandably, only deal with one country. And they say, oh, I'll just use Dubai again as an example. Oh, come to Dubai, we'll set it up. You can live here, you can have your corporation here, blah, blah, blah. But again, then you're kind of putting all your eggs in one basket. It's just a different basket than where you're at now. And it's not that complete diversification.
I know what you're saying. I wish you had like a lead magnet that says, all right, yo, so these are the countries, these are the best tax countries, these are the worst best countries. These are the countries that really have cool things with personal tax. These you pay a fortune. These are the visas that are easy to manage. These are visas that are like a nightmare. And if you are thinking about these are possible matches. So come work with us so we can make this custom for you. Like I wish that was something you did as a lead magnet for people to go work. Because I think my nightmare is the visas and where can I go and where can't I go and how long can I go? Like I just get tired of that. And you can come for 1 month. What do I do after 1 month? And you have to move and come. I'm like, can't I go somewhere for a few years, like 5 years? And can I not see like requirements come for 5 years because of ABC? Like, why do I have to spend a month here and then 3 months there? And like, I like to do the nomad, but I don't like the unpredictability that can cost $1,500 in a second, you know?
The problem with what you said, like people can go online and see what are corporate tax rates in every country
Mm,
around the world.
mm,
It's available. The problem with there is just no lead magnet because that would be a 10,000 page book because
mm,
your requirements and what you're allowed to do are based somewhat on, especially if we're talking about living, are based upon where you live. Coming from Canada, I have options of travel that you probably don't have. And people who live in Russia have different ones. People in Turkey have different ones. People in Mexico, it's based, the governments decide based on who they're going to allow or why of, oh, you could come visa free for so long. Like I can go to the United States for 6 months, no problem, no visa, nothing. But when Europe without a residency card, I'm allowed 90 out of every 180 days for all the Schengen agreement countries. But for somebody who was born in, let's say, Germany, they can just move to Spain and just go to the police station, register, and that's it. They're done because it's one of the Schengen agreement countries. So there can't be just one lead magnet, little, 5-page thing that I could put together because every country has different rules for other countries.
That's my pain. So what you're saying is a person like me, like, have so much pain about my ignorance, about too many countries, about where I can go, where I can't go. And there's so much on the internet that I even get tired of it and I get angry. So what you're saying that for me, I would have to sit on a call with you and answer the questions so that you can kind of see.
Well, we would first have a call to see kind of what you want and making sure that we're a match to work together. And then I send you a form to fill out and give you some time to really think about it, because how specific and detailed you are helps us put together a better plan. And then we go through, so you answer all the questions, send it back. Then we go through and put together some options based on the information you provided. And then let's say for where you want to live, I give you 3 options where you want to be a tax resident and what would work out and how you would get that residency or citizenship, how long you would need to be there. We would go through all that. And let's say you didn't like any of those. Then I would say, well, why don't you like these places? You would give me the reason. And then I would go back and say, okay, because sometimes like we need to be fairly clear on what we want, but at the same time, it's not set in stone, right? If you move, I'm working with somebody right now, they're moving, they want a European citizenship. And so right now they're looking at France because it is the easiest one to get short term. In about 5 years, they can get citizenship. And then once they have that citizenship, they can move anywhere within Europe. So they're considering doing that for 5 years to then have access to all of Europe. And so sometimes we have to put in some time in maybe a place that isn't our ideal, but willing to do that to get to a place that we want. Other people can just do citizenship by investment and can donate money to a country and get a passport and have that, and they have no intentions of living there, but they just want to have that additional passport for travel purposes. If things go really bad in their country, for them to get out, their government doesn't want to renew their passport for whatever reason, and just to kind of have that as a backup plan. So we really are looking at also, what do you want? Why do you want it? What is your financial situation? Do you have family that were born somewhere that we can then go back and get citizenship due to that? Or what places do you want residency just to have that? Maybe, yeah, you would go, but it's not a place that you would really want to live full time, but maybe you would go for a year or 2 years and you would just keep it because things aren't good in your country. Or, I mean, there's just so many options available, which is why it does become overwhelming. But each one has also limitations and requirements, which then when you kind of go down that rabbit hole, as we say, it does begin to become very complicated when you're unsure and you just don't know.
Sally, all I know is I probably want to live in Spain. Don't ask me why, I just love the country. I am very particular about weather. Can't be too hot, can't be freezing. I am very particular about food. My husband and I, we both have to find the food. He's a meat guy, I'm a vegetable guy. Other than that, I don't even know what the tax options are for me, and I do not know what the best is versus what the worst is. So I wouldn't even want to think about that. I would be like, okay, what is available. Like I don't even know, and I don't even want to know because I don't know how much I can control. And so really what I want is a place which we can both like, the weather, the food, and he's a people person. So it has to be a country where people socialize. But that's really all we know, other than the fact that we would like to move in different places and kind of have a feel of the places. And so my clarity doesn't go further than that because I haven't lived in enough places to know. So I don't have like, I want to live here and here. Like I don't know. Because I haven't been allowed to explore enough to kind of get a good feel of where I want to live. But I know that Spain is one of the countries. And maybe, I don't know, there can be like different countries, but I don't want to lose my head thinking about all of the options. So I
Right.
just wish that there was a way that you would say, all right, these are the questions that are important. 1 to 10, give us these and we'll bring a proposal. Then I can use your proposal to say yes and no. Does that make sense? Like,
Right. And that's basically like our questionnaire does go into detail because we need to know, like, well, some of the questions are, what about weather? What is considered too hot? What is considered too cold? What about, do you like a big city with lots of people or not, to help kind of narrow those things down? Because I mean, there you can go anywhere in the world. I always say if there's a will, there's a way. It may not be easy, may not be quick, and it may not be cheap, but every country has different types of temporary visas, permanent visas, residency programs. And so it's first finding. And as I said, though, you could go, let's just use your example of Spain. If you wanted to go to Spain, but you're not 100% sure, what we would look into then is what type of temporary residency or visa could you get? So you can go to Spain. When you're in Spain, you can still travel throughout the European Union and check out some other places. And some you'll just love because they're nice to vacation to. Others you might think, oh, maybe that country would be great to live in. And then from there, so you're not necessarily like, you're not stuck. It's not, oh, I do one move and I'm stuck. I've lived now in 5 countries and I'm looking probably next year to move to my 6th country. And right now, I don't have any clue where I want to go yet. But I just know I'm going to be ready by next year, and I'm going to think about some different options and places. And I do things a little bit differently that I don't recommend to a lot of people because I'm single. So it's easy just for me. And that's something you also to take into consideration. If you have a spouse or you have children, like there's other considerations. But for me, and I've traveled a ton, I could just go and move somewhere, get whatever permits and residencies and things that I want. Like I'll check it out first by the 30 days I'm allowed, the 90 days I'm allowed, whatever it is that my passport allows me to have, or whatever that temporary visa, if I have to have a visa to enter the country, and see. And if I like it and I think it's a potential, then I'll go through the process of whatever visas I need for whatever amount of time. And if I don't like it, then when that time's up, or if I really don't like it, which hasn't happened yet, I just leave. I go somewhere else. I can go back to one of the places where I have residency or citizenship, or I can just be like, oh, okay, well, this place isn't really for me. I'm going to check out a different place and do that over again. But I do travel quite a bit. But again, it's just me, so it's easier because it is just me. I don't have to be talking to somebody about uprooting, moving, not worried about kids' school, those types of things. So it is those things we need to also take into consideration too. If somebody's married or has a partner, if they'll have kids, because you don't want to be bouncing around too much. Or I mean, maybe if you and your spouse do want to move around a lot, then we look at that as well.
I don't know. The most disappointing thing for me is when you're in a country and you discover, oh, there was this one thing you never saw. Like, really? Like, why did nobody say this? Like, we live in a country 3 months in, and there is something that we missed that apparently now we have to fly out of the country. And I'm like, damn, this is $3,000. And so I really get angry when I miss things like that, because we're probably thinking, oh, 6 months later. Nope, 3 months you have to leave. And I'm like, what?
And some places it's 90 days. I know. So in Montenegro, for some people, I've got friends there that they have to leave every 30 days. So once a month, they go to either Croatia or Serbia or Albania or somewhere. They go, and then when they come back, they get another stamp in their passport, 30 days. And they have to do it again. Every 30 days, they do it. And they're okay with it. For them, they're like, it's fine. That's because their passport only allows them 30 days. And so that's what they do. So for some people, they would say, absolutely not. There is no way that I have to leave the country every 30 days if something happens, or I can't, or I'm sick. It's like, you have to. Or you can get into trouble or fines or things like that. And so there's some people that I know that would say, absolutely no way. And some people it's acceptable. And so again, that comes back to, that's why there's no easy, like, oh, go to this country, have your corporation here, do this, do this, do this. Because some people are like, no, I don't like it. Or I don't want to live in that country. I don't like that culture. I don't like that lifestyle. I don't want to leave every 30 days. And other people are like, oh, I love it here. I don't care. I can go to Serbia every 30 days and go for a day, spend the night, come back. Great. No problem. I enjoy it. So it's so individualized.
What you do is very complicated, and I'm just wondering, who else do you work with? Because there's visas, and there is this, and there is that, and so I'm kind of looking at your work and going, holy, give me an idea of what is the partners, and give me the legs, the partners, give me the whole picture, because at this point I'm thinking, okay, so she knows visas too, she knows countries too, she knows tax too, she knows, what does she do? Give me a good idea of what you do.
I know about a lot of things, but I'm not an expert in them. Like, I'm not a tax expert. I'm not an immigration expert. I know from experience, but I have a massive network and team of people. And so within the countries that we work within, so immigration lawyers, accountants, lawyers to set up corporations. In some countries, healthcare providers, like if you need private insurance, got connections for that. For some specific countries, we've got partners that we work with that will move your household items internationally. In some countries, even we have a lot of real estate agents, and in a lot of countries, we've got real estate agents, sometimes mortgage brokers. Depends on the country. Some countries don't really do mortgages. So you need cash. Some will be only residential mortgages, not for commercial use. And so it really is a network of people. And depending upon where people go, like if they go to Spain or to Costa Rica or Montenegro, the places that I've lived, they will work directly with the people that I personally work with and use, like my own lawyer, my own immigration lawyer, my own accountant, those people that I've specifically worked with, because I mean, I've worked with them. They're great. I know them and I recommend those. And then in the other countries, we have all kinds of connections and team members that either come highly recommended from our colleagues and people that we know, very good friends who live there. I've got friends in many countries around the world, and a lot of them have immigrated. So it's lawyers they've used, people that they've used. So they are vetted, and we have a huge team of people that we work with.
That's helpful, because I was beginning to think, geez, she does immigration, and then she does lawyer stuff, and then she does healthcare, and then real estate, then mortgage, then Jesus Christ. I was like, what does she do? So
I'm not that smart. I don't do it all.
So what's your specialty? What's your thing? Like, what is it that you are you the super connector, or do you have something like the work I do is messaging mainly? I like messaging, translating the soul, so simplifying people's messages into like the practical world. But I also can do branding work. I can also help people with offers. I can also do other things. But my main thing, which I love to do, is the messaging. So people come to me for messaging, and we can go deeper into other things. But I do have a variety of colleagues who do healing, and they do timeline integration, and they do blah. But I'm like, there's no way I'm going to learn all these things. And so if your thing is more like you need to get rid of some stuff, then first sit with this person and let them clean that area. Then you come back. And so for me, I know like where my dominant skill is, and that's where I stay. And then I just collaborate with other people to do the holistic stuff, which the person needs eventually, but they don't need to hire like 10 people. So what's your dominant thing? Like, are you the super connector, or is there something specific that you do?
I mean, definitely the connector is part of it, but I really enjoy helping people to, like to inspire them and empower them and educate them of the possibilities that are available. And it's been my life. I've lived in 5 countries. I've traveled to 50 countries. So when I travel, not only am I just on vacation, but I think about how things work, what goes on, what's the good, what's the bad. And then I have, like I said, friends in various countries. And so we've been educated and told, like, we were born here in this country, we live in this country, we stay in this country, maybe we vacation 1, 2, 3 times a year. And that's traditionally how it was. But obviously, things have changed a lot with the use of the internet. Then the pandemic came where nobody could go anywhere. And then everybody's like, wait a minute, if I can work from home, home can be almost anywhere. And it's just letting people know the options that are available. And once they know, then as I say, like, I like to help people to live their best life, and whatever that is, because everybody's different. Everybody's best, everybody's preference, everybody's ideal is different. But one thing that is the same for everyone, there is no perfect place. There's no perfect place in the world. There's not a perfect place to live or, to do things. Every country has got benefits and challenges. And what could be a benefit for me, somebody else could consider that's a bit of a challenge. And somebody's challenge, I could think it's not a challenge, but not a benefit. I'm just indifferent to it because my life experience is what I'm used to, where I've lived, what I'm done. What we consider benefits and challenges are different, but every country, because they do things so differently, benefits and challenges. Every country's challenge, dealing with bureaucracy and the government. It's not easy anywhere. You have to have patience. Patient, no matter, even people, when they go to Canada, they go to the United States, they think, oh, everything's going to be so smooth and easy. No, there's still bureaucracy. There's still red tape. You still have to have patience, just like Costa Rica, Montenegro, Spain. Like, you have to have patience when dealing with any government anywhere in the world. That's the only thing that's consistent about the world, is having to have patience when dealing with governments.
So I'm thinking about the offers you have now, and I want you to explain how much work I have to do as a human being. Take me as a guinea pig who is thinking, oh, it would be nice to go to Montenegro, and I would love to go to Spain, and I don't know, the 50 countries you've traveled, that's probably my database, and. And I'm thinking, I do not want to do a lot of work. So I want you to tell us how you help people and how much work do I have to do, because I am not so excited about doing too much of this government and bam. It's not my favorite part. And tick this box, and you never tick this box, and you like, what?
So, there's always 2 ways to do something. You can do it yourself, and sometimes it takes longer and we make mistakes because we don't know, but it's cheap. We do it ourselves. Or we pay somebody to help us and they make sure the boxes are ticked and things are done. But it costs money, but it can be done properly and faster. So which do you want? I know people that are very do it yourself. I'm a very do it myself person, but there's always times when it's like, you know what? It's just easier for me to pay the lawyer. They're going to do it, get it done, and it gets done faster. Because in some countries, they have the right connections. They can get certain appointments, they can do certain things, they know the documents, they know, as you said, that little box that needs to be checked, and they know. So in some instances, it's much better to just pay somebody and be like, you know what, they're going to do it. Sure, I've got to get, maybe copies of my birth certificate, copies of my passport, like criminal record check. Those are pretty
That's
standard
fine.
things.
That's fine.
Yeah.
That's fine.
And they're going to do the documentation, they're going to fill it out, they're going to take it to wherever it needs to be, and I'm going to pay that person, and I'm not going to have to worry about it or think about it. Or
The
I
things
try
I
to figure
don't
it all out
like.
and do it myself.
The thing I don't mind doing it myself, but sometimes I end up in the wrong office, or I have done something wrong, or I have missed a box, and I'm like, and sometimes I don't know, I don't qualify, and sometimes I'm like, okay, I need someone to tell me exactly what to do, because it doesn't seem like anything I'm doing is working, and that is eating time, it is consuming. I don't mind, but I don't know that I always know what they want. Right. And so I submit and cross my fingers, and then 3 months later, they're like, you can't come. I'm like, why? And there is a vague reason, and I'm like, huh. And so for me, while I think I can do some things myself, I found that visa is very tricky and very unpredictable and very time consuming, very annoying sometimes. Unless I can do it online, I'm probably not going to want to do it. Like, unless I can go online and submit and check boxes, and they go, no, you need to check that box. Like, if I have to, I don't know, go somewhere and see someone, it just gets annoying for me. So I think a little bit of both, but give us kind of an idea of how you support people and what levels there are, so that maybe people are different places, and maybe I'm also there in a different place. Or I don't know. Like, give us what you have in the back, and people can decide like where they want to connect. So, but before that part, what is the bit of information or section that you wished we touched before the offer that we haven't touched?
I mean, I think we've touched on a lot. I think people just need to kind of think about how are they as a person. And as you said, you like to generally do things yourself, but then to a certain point, you would like some help with certain things. And that's great, because you know that. Right. And so then when you know yourself, it might be, okay, fine, I'm going to fill out the forms and documents, or, you know what, I'm trying to get a visa for this place I really want to go. I'm just going to pay somebody to do it for me, because I know they're going to do it right. And I don't want to take the time, my time. I can be working, maybe get a new client, which will cover the cost of paying somebody else to do things for me. So we have to kind of weigh that as to what we like to do and want to do. Do we want to do it ourselves, knowing that we could make mistakes and it's going to take longer? Or do we want to pay somebody who knows exactly what they're doing, because it is what they do, and it's going to be done correctly, and it's going to be done faster? Everything is kind of that time or money.
I like what you say, because for us, at one point, we started hiring lawyers. Like, okay, tell us, what do these people need? Because they had done that, they had done like immigration for very long, and they said they won't accept because of bam. And we're like, oh, okay, let's get that. And so now
or they might even say before you apply, when they're going through, they're going to be like, oh, this might be a problem, we need to do this, or we need to do that, or something. Or they could go through and say, you know what, we're not sure if, it's very doubtful that this will get accepted. Do you still want to go ahead and apply?
But what we did is we paid like less than $200, I think, to this guy, and kind of said, if you want to apply and you want to be accepted, these are the 3 ways. This is a maybe, this is most likely, and this is a sure deal. So they kind of told us, if you want to be accepted 100%, get this, and this, and then apply for spouse to move in, to come to England. But if you want to come as other ways, then chances are it can be like, so we were like very sure now, if we apply this, it means this. We apply like this, it means this. If we want a sure thing, then we need to meet the requirements of spouse. And I was like, that's helpful. Like, that's really helpful, because we were trying this and this and this, and they were like, okay, they said this, let's do it. No, now they have another reason. And then now they have another. I'm like, okay, why don't you list all your reasons why you can't have us? and then let's figure that stuff out. But it's never like that. The thing I
And
wanted
that's,
to ask, yeah.
as you said earlier, like you can go on the internet and it gets overwhelming. And yeah, it tells you all the different types of visas, the different things that you need, but it doesn't necessarily say that that's going to be the best for you. Right. And people think, well, I'm married, we need to apply together or we need to do certain things. But in some cases, as you mentioned, you could have your spouse applying. I was just talking with an immigration gentleman from New Zealand, and he's had people that moved that he was an engineer and she was a teacher. And so in theory, people would think, oh, and they're a couple, have them apply together because as he's an engineer, more likely to get into New Zealand. But that actually wasn't the case. He said, we need teachers. So we had her apply, get her visa as a teacher, and then brought him over as the spouse, and he's the engineer. And so it comes then down to knowing, because a lot of people, like I would have thought too, because I don't know too much about New Zealand. Well, he's an engineer over a teacher would probably be, because it's a higher level education, probably more likely to bring in engineers because most countries want engineers, but not in New Zealand. They need teachers. And so having her apply, getting accepted as a teacher, then they applied for him to come as the spouse. And it's not going to be really probably on the internet written that way. Right. It's like, oh, yeah, if you do these, you're going to get accepted. These are the things that we need. But that's why paying somebody and talking to somebody who is a specialist and knows that they got accepted and she did. And then they brought him over and they're both now in New Zealand.
There's a question I want to ask you. If I was paying tax faithfully, like God, okay, just paying whatever they want, and maybe I was making $1 million and paying 100 grand, whatever the thing was, are you able to tell what's possible, or is that a bit too vague? Like, what is, if someone was paying the traditional way of paying tax, maybe they had some advice, maybe they don't, I don't know, but they are filing faithfully the traditional way, but we're just like, I don't know how much I could save. Like, what is when you say don't pay taxes you don't have to pay and still do everything legally, I'm just wondering, like, what have you seen to be possible? And we can just throw in a disclaimer and say this is not anything to say that you will save XYZ, but this is like what has happened for other people. Would you like to go there? Like from this to this to this?
Sure. So, I mean, let's say you're making $1 million a year and you're paying 30% tax. So you're paying $300,000 per year in taxes. And we could say, deductions, whatever else, this, that. But if you're at kind of that 30%, that's 300,000. If we move you to a corporation, let's say that's not even no tax, Ireland, for example, Ireland's 12.5%. You're saving yourself well over $150,000 of just not giving it away to the government, and legally, like Ireland's 12%. And if we look at large companies, and I'm not using them because I just use them as examples because people know them. Like if we look at Google, we look at Amazon, we look at Facebook, and then they have parent companies that, sure, they have offices and things within the United States, but a lot of their parent companies are either in Ireland, Liechtenstein, Luxembourg, and different countries because they don't pay the high taxes in those countries. So if you're paying 30% tax and we can get that down to even 10%, that 20% of whatever your value is, you either, pay yourself more, but then you have to consider your personal income tax. Are you going to end up paying more taxes personally? Do you put that money back into your company? Do you have your company paying for your phone, your laptops, your car, the different things that your corporation could be paying for you? So then therefore you can reduce the need for a personal income and pay less taxes on your personal income because you don't have to pay yourself that much because the corporation is. And, do you just put that money back into your corporation, or do you just kind of leave it in the bank, invest it in something else, open up another corporation that has maybe property, that has maybe a separate business, and different things. But depending upon where you're at, you could save tens of thousands to hundreds of thousands, depending upon your income and the percentage of taxes that you're paying now versus what the tax rate is in the country that you choose to go to. And some countries have a flat tax. So
Mm.
Italy, for example, we had a gentleman that wanted to move to save and wanted to save taxes and stuff. And they really liked Europe. And we ended up helping him settle within Italy. And he paid a flat tax of 100,000 euro per year. And I know that there's some people are like, oh my gosh, 100,000 euro a year, that's a lot to pay in taxes. Well, he was paying substantially more than that. And so he
Mm.
was saving lots of money. So he was happy. They love Italy. They've got all the conveniences and the food and the Amazon Prime delivery and all those things that they wanted, the weather and everything. And so they're happy. And he's like, I'm saving a lot of money. So I don't mind paying 100,000 because I was paying way more than that. So we have to look at
Mm.
kind of like the big picture and perspective. Where are you right now? What is that percentage and dollar amount? And if we move it, and we
Mm.
get that down, even if it's not zero, right? It's still,
Mm.
if we could cut it in half, if you paid half of what you're paying in taxes now and you had the other half to reinvest back into your company or more, right? If we did get it to a place that, yeah, a zero corporate tax country works for you and you're now paying 20%. What are you going to do with that 20%? Options are, it's up to you what you can do with it.
So the question is, if I was to go in a no tax country, and zero for now, anyway, you never know, and I was
Right.
put my corporation there, is there an obligation to that, or could you just start and forget about it? Do you have to go there? Is there an obligation further than my company's there? Like, I think when I was opening my company, I was given an option of Delaware. And I can't remember
Mhm.
the reason why, but I was told Delaware. That's something like Delaware. Why want a company in Delaware? I didn't understand, but I think it was a tax thing. I think they were
Yeah,
trying to
it's
tell me,
substantially lower taxes if you want to be
yeah.
in the United States.
Yeah, so I think they
Yeah.
were trying to tell me that if I wanted to pay decent tax, I would go to Delaware. But at that point, I wasn't making enough to worry about tax. So it didn't ring
Mhm.
in my head, but I remember I was given a few options and I just chose whatever without. But I'm just wondering, because even where I opened my company, I've never been there. I don't know. It's just an address. So is there an obligation in the things, or is it just a location, a country where your company is, a country where you're going to file, and there's no you don't have to go there. I don't know. What's the obligation there?
Well, it depends, which
Mm.
I know is not a good answer. It depends on the country. A lot of countries know you won't have to go there. You will have an attorney open up the corporation for you, do all the documents, you give them power of attorney to
Mm.
do that. And in a lot of countries, you'll never have to go there. You will hire somebody that will have an office there in case mail gets sent. But like in this day and age, nobody does. But you just have to have a representative there. And of course, you're going to have your accountant. Even though you're not filing taxes, you're still going to have to file a tax return. They still want to make sure that you're not money laundering, financing terrorism. And honestly, as a business owner, I want to know my numbers. I want to know how much
Mm.
I'm doing in sales, what I'm spending my money on, what's going where. So if I need to make adjustments, so to me, it just makes sense to have that done anyway. But then you're not paying any taxes. In some countries, just to go back to Dubai as the example, you have a company in Dubai, you have to have a residency permit. And so you do have to go there to get that residency permit. And you do have to spend I think a few days or maybe a week at most. I'm not even sure if it's a full week in the country every year. So some people will go and they'll go there and it'll be their vacation time. We're like, yeah, I like Dubai. I'll go. I can go for a few days. It keeps my residency status, which, my corporation. And since I'm not paying taxes, instead of the taxes, I book a trip to Dubai. I'm still saving money. Right. And then I have other people that are like, I don't want to have to go anywhere because I don't know what's going on in life. Who knows what's going to happen? I don't want to have to be somewhere. And so then we don't look at those countries. It's like, okay, well,
Mm.
then we eliminate those from the list. Let's look at the ones
Mm.
where you don't have to.
Mm. That's really good. Let's go to the offer. What offers do you have in the back? How can people work with you if they are going, oh my God, this is God sending me? Like when I met you, I was like, okay, this is God saying, here's your person, start figuring out this stuff, because I'm like, I don't have the head for it and you've done it. So I'm like, okay, maybe I need to work with this lady because I don't want a lot of headache with this stuff. And my visa doesn't help much. And my husband has a British passport. So it's very frustrating for him because now he's stuck with the Ugandan passport, which I don't know, it doesn't go anywhere for any long. So give us an idea of what you have in the back and how it works and who, I don't know, how people can start.
So to help people, I mean, we definitely have some other options. I do have a couple of books that I've written, and they're available through Amazon. And so those would be a couple of options if people really just want to kind of get started, get some more information. Also, I'm revamping my website right now, but I do have some events coming up. I'm doing a 7-series day workshop. So it's going to be once a week, every Wednesday, starting in September. Where each one is part of that flag theory that we've talked about, the citizenship, business, the residency. And every Wednesday will be a workshop about one topic. And that I don't have times done yet for it, but I'm working on that. And then at the end, probably again, it's around the 19th. I'd have to double check. We're doing a summit, a global citizen life summit. And those things will be on the new website. So within the next few days, I'm going to have that up and running. And so the website is globalcitizenlife.org. And so those are kind of the easy steps. And then through the website, if somebody wants to connect, they want to book a call to kind of talk about some options, see what's available, perhaps work with us, then we can discuss the options that would work for them, because again, everybody wants something different. And we can talk with them about the different options of working directly with us, or sign up for this. The summit is free. It's free to attend, so people can get lots of information from the summit. Again, I've got books if people are just at very early stages and thinking, wow, this is all really, really new. Go to Amazon and check out a few of the books that I've got, or join the workshops that we have coming up. And all of that information is on the website, globalcitizenlife.org.
The website will be in the show notes, so be sure to click on that and read further. But what I want to include as well is a link to book a call with Sally and have a chat. All this for me is one big word: overwhelm. I don't know where to start, and I don't want to know where to start. I just need to know, like, what do I need to know? If you're like me, just book a call. Like for me, I can't be bothered learning tons and tons. I learn everything when it occurs for me. This is a problem. Okay, let's learn about that. Another problem has, okay, let's learn about that. If I'm going to learn everything about immigration and visas and taxes, my head will just get full. So if you're like me and you don't have the headspace, just book a call. There will be a pinned comment with the link to book a call with Sally. Book a call and kind of see like your situation, where you're at, and what may be the best thing for you. And just as always, the way that this works really is there's a triangle going on. So draw a triangle in your head and think, on this side is the speaker. Let's save some money on tax. On this side is me. Let's translate this message so really people get it. And at the bottom, like literally the person holding the whole triangle together is you, the vessel of this message, the person who's going to transport this message. And so in this moment, I want to honor you for being a part of this triangle and ask you to pause and think, who has the most trouble with tax right now? Who is paying too much? Who is complaining to you about the bill, the tax bill that came in the mail from, is it Iris? I don't know what the company is that sends you those things. Who do you know that is being slapped and beaten seriously from this? Or who do you know that is waiting for a surprise? They're not sure where tax is. They're not sure what they're doing. They're not sure if they're bilingual or not? Who do you know that if the Irish was to check their account, they wouldn't like it? And in this moment, I want you to get the link from wherever you're watching, and I want you to drop it in their private space and say, hey, I watched this and I thought about you. And I want you to just drop it in their space and give them a chance to meet Sally so that we don't end up with a slap from, better. That's really the best way you can support this work, is to do your part on the triangle: the gift, the translator, the vessel. If you do your work as a vessel, that is all that we need to happen. That is what we need for this message to reach the right people so that Sally stops being the best kept secret. And if you're here because somebody sent you that message and says, I thought about you, you sure don't want to be breaking the string. So pass it on. Who do you know that is having trouble with tax? Who do you know that is paying too much? Who do you know that is waiting for that? Who do you know that is a walking time bomb tax-wise? Who do you know? Slide in their private space and just send them this and say, I watched this and I thought about you. That is really all the marketing we ever need. That is everything we ever need. That's all the advertisement we ever need. Get Sally's message in front of the right people who have the funds, but don't have the time to protect their assets and protect their money from whoever is taking it. Really. Sally, we're getting to the end. If somebody was watching and they're like, oh my God, I missed it, and now I'm going to drive or whatever, and they had a minute, what do you want them to remember? How could you recap this for them?
I always like to say, we want to help people live their best life and don't be stuck under the control of any one single government anywhere in the world.
This is literally a life on your terms. Living where you want to live, with who you want to live, choosing the country that you want to live in, and deciding what taxes you pay and who you pay them to and what taxes you don't want to pay, and deciding what happens with your taxes and with your assets. I think this is true freedom, or life by design, or a life on your terms. Anyway, to me, that's what I would want. I don't know what your best life is, but if living where you want, paying the taxes you want, protecting your assets, moving your family wherever you want to move them, and getting the help for that is not guiding your best life, I don't know what is. And so I hope this was helpful. I hope you rate, you share, you subscribe, you do all of the things using your app, because without you, this podcast does not exist. And so if you like the work here and you're enjoying it and you're getting value, please support me by 1, being a vessel, by 2, by subscribing, rating, reviewing, saying, I want this podcast to be there tomorrow. That is how you tell me. I always tell my clients that clients speak by way of signing the check. And so I can listen to my clients, or I can listen to what they do when I send the invoice. And for me, the invoice speaks louder than clients telling me, oh, we love this product. Yeah, but you're not signing the invoice. So clients speak with their money. It's kind of how I see it. If they're not paying you, it doesn't matter what they're saying. So for me, I listen to the clients based on their ability to sign the check. If they say, oh my God, that's a good offer, and they don't buy it, what I hear is it's not worth my money. If they say, I don't have the money to invest, and finally they invest, I go, oh, that's a good offer. They're telling me that that's a good offer. So you can tell me that you love this podcast literally by doing those things: subscribing, rating, reviewing, and passing on the message. If you do that, I'm happy to be 80 with no eyes and still trying to do a conversation. All right, have a beautiful day, and thank you so much for being a part of this work. It's really my honor and privilege to be working with you towards building this platform and seeing it grow one person at a time. And Sally, thank you so much for talking to us about tax and giving us a chance not to keep losing money because of ignorance. Like, I am ignorant, and maybe most people are. And so thank you so much for sharing your wisdom, your story, and everything in between with us. But we really can't forget the time that you spent out of this moment, preparing, learning, failing, going through all of that. We really honor that time, because it is what added up for you to be here right now with the knowledge you know, with ABC. That's how you got the formulas. And so we really celebrate you for right now. We'll also celebrate you for the time you spent in the wilderness when no one was seeing you. Like, we really see that as the best kept secret, because that is what kept secrets do. They're in the wilderness, and then one day they become a one-hit wonder, but they're not. They become overnight successes. No one is, like, everyone is a best kept secret until they're not. And in that moment, the world decides you're an overnight success. But really, you're not. It's been the wilderness and the wilderness and the wilderness, and finally, boom, this whole thing. So thank you so much. We really appreciate you for your time.
Thank you very much for having me.
Until next time, have a beautiful day. I'll talk to you very soon.